Hi, we've worked a ton on application problems, but now we're going to look at some application problems specifically that have to do with inequalities. And so some of the applications that we'll use are when there are costs. So these are when we're talking about cost in this sense, we're talking about the expenses. Typically, we're going to talk about the expenses of a business. The cost, that's what we mean by cost. So things that are expenses, money they're spending. The revenue is basically the sales or the income of the business. And then average, we know that average is the mean. This is when we add the numbers then divide the sum. By the number of numbers. Okay, so these are going to be times when it is not that we need to something is going to be exactly equal. There's like a range of values that could make it true. So if you have a budget, for example, if you have a budget, it's okay to spend less than the amount that's budgeted, but you shouldn't go over, right? So that would be like a less than or equal to situation. So in these cases, you'll be specifically asked that we are writing inequalities, not equations. So you'll also see that sometimes things don't come out nice and neatly, oftentimes not. So just some simple ones first. If Bill is at least 21 years old, and we've done some of these in our translating lesson, so I could say Bill is greater than or equal to 21. If at most 5 students drop the course, we could also say that that's no more than 5 students. It's also 5 or fewer. So this would be like the students that drop the course is less than or equal to 5. So there's lots of different ways that we could word that. If the earnings cannot exceed $1,200, so if they can't go over, exceed would mean go over 1,200, then the earnings must be less than or equal to 1,200. 1,200 itself is okay. If your speed must exceed 15, so there was a minimum, like, right? We don't want, like a moped on the interstate or a bicycle on the interstate, whatever. So X has to be greater than 15. Now, since it says must exceed, 15 is not included, so we don't use the equal sign. Spot the dog's weight is less than 50 pounds. That box is grayed out just because that one was already very much just like in a traditional is less than. Boston is more than 200 miles away. And this is true. Boston is greater than 200 miles from here. And then is between, we didn't review this much, but you should have had this previously about compound inequalities. We probably did a few just in our review, but I did not do a separate lesson on compound inequalities. This, where it's between, then we could write the x between and write this as a compound inequality. where it is more than 90. So 90 is less than x, means x is greater than 90, and less than 100. So the film is between 90 and 100 minutes long, not inclusive. All right. All right, so we won't be doing much with the compound inequalities with our applications, so if that got you a little scared, don't worry. I mean, don't be scared anyway, but I'm going to skip over that question. It's just kind of messy, and look at the second one, because we're going to have several that are like this, where someone is selling something and they have two different costs. I don't always follow exactly these steps about circling the keywords, etc., but you could. So she sells t-shirts. It cost her $6.50 to buy each t-shirt, and it told us here to use T for t-shirts. So this is each t-shirt. So $6.50, wherever it belongs, is going to get a T. The $150 to rent equipment is not for each t-shirt. It's each month, but we're only talking about 1 month here. So it's not going to get a variable, and she sells, again, each t-shirt for $12. So her costs are the $6.50 for every t-shirt, and her costs are also the $150 just one time for the month for the equipment, and then her revenue, the money she has coming in, is $12 for every t-shirt. So her two costs if I want to make a profit, right, if I want to make a profit, I want my cost to be less than my revenue. If they are equal, right, if they are equal, then that would mean, if they're equal, that would mean that I just broke even. I didn't lose money, but I didn't make money either. And honestly, I kind of like to write this with the money coming in on the left, personally. I know that my revenue needs to be greater than my expenses. Either way you write it, it needs to be open to the revenue, because that's the one we want to be greater. And we're going to have to move our variables to the same side and then divide. If you leave it set up the way it originally was, you're going to probably get a negative, because if you move it to the left, it just tends to work out better if we do revenue on the left. It works, it should work either way, but from my past experience. And then, of course, we would have to solve, and I did not give myself enough space, so I'm going to scroll down a little bit and try to recall. Try to recall is always hard for me. Yeah, when I move the screen, I can't keep my previous work there. $12, $6.50, $1.50. $12, $6.50, $1.50. Yes, the struggle is real. $12. So that was 12T. Needs to be greater than 650T plus 150. So I'm going to subtract those to move that over. So that's going to give me 5.5 or 550. So basically, if I didn't have that cost of the equipment, I would be making $5.50 on every shirt. But I do have that cost of equipment. So now if I divide this up, divide 150 by 5.5, And then what you're going to get is not going to be pretty. So it will not be a lovely looking answer. And we have to know how to interpret that because no one's buying part of a t-shirt. So I got 27.27, carry on, carry on, carry on, right? So then I have t is greater than 27.27. Well, even if this had been 27 even, it says t has to be greater than that. So this means we have to sell 28 t-shirts. So we cannot think about traditional rounding and say, but it's only 27.2, I should round down. No, if they only sell 27 shirts, they will have lost a little bit of money. Okay, so I have to go greater. And even if that had divided pretty and it said t is greater than 27, that would really mean that that's the break even, and we would need to bump it up to 28 for them to actually make money. So we'll have a few more examples like that, and I will set them up with the revenue on the left to start with. All right, so next we have a sample question that includes averages. And
Hi.
hi.
Are you able to print off transcripts?